Croatians have always built really nice ships, and one of the earliest ones was called the Karak, and it sailed all over the world, and it really was a successful boat in its day. Today, they're sailing their own version of a Karak with motors.
The rugged coastline of Croatia and the political boundaries make it much easier to tour the area by water rather than by land. There are more than 1,000 islands off the Croatian coast, many with fairly large towns. The islands and many harbors are reminiscent of the coast of Maine where we live, but navigating around Croatia is much easier because the channels are so deep and there are no submerged rocks.
The captain was looking for a spot to anchor so the passengers could take a swim.
That's where we're going.
But usually we would tie up to the docks.
So this is a singing group. The name of the singing group is the Faros Cantors in English language. In Croatian language is Faroski Cantaduri. And they take the water to bring home, and the boys look at her. She's very handsome and always the same. Women.
Klapa is a Dalmatian tradition of multi-part a cappella singing, dating back to the 1800s. Klapa translates as group of friends, and some groups have performed together for decades. They are traditionally all male voices in 3- and 4-part harmony, but recently the art has been opened up to women. One of their favorite performance locations is Diocletian's Palace, seen here. On most ships, passengers are called to dinner using a bell. We were serenaded by steam.
Please don't miss this lunch because of me. I'm gonna jump in the water, stay drunk all the time. It's dinner time now. Don't worry, be happy. Don't tell the others. Will I ever learn to prepare lunch just like you do? Have no practice.
Most of the Croatian coast of the Adriatic was built by the Venetians in the 14th and 15th century. So the buildings, very, very medieval with the small alleys. Public fountains and fortified city walls.
And the Cumanus, and they are crossing.
This palace in Split was built by Diocletian, the only Roman emperor who had a chance to retire. And it's the only National Heritage location that still has people living in it. There are still a couple of hundred people living in this palace.
Diocletian brought a lot of stuff from the Roman province of Egypt back to Split. He even brought this Sphinx that's now lost its head.
Hvala.
Sve u redu, sve u redu.
Sve se to cijeni.
The Croatians have had a lot of very good inventors over the years. The guy that invented fingerprints, and also the explorer Marco Polo, who lived right here. On the island of Hvar, we got to visit the oldest public theater in Europe. This is the first theater that actually admitted the public to the shows which were put on by the public. And for Robin and I, both being professional stagehands, this was sort of a neat thing for us to see. This fellow was Nikola Tesla, the famous electrical inventor, born here in Croatia. He invented the Tesla coil and is famous for originating alternating current and radio transmission.
This is probably the end of the bloodline, but even the prince...
759 meters, 3.2 miles. This is not the longest tunnel in Europe. Now the longest one is in Switzerland, 45 kilometers. Now, not so frequent, but in summertime.
We have a lack of water. And people had to rely for a long... And the first twig of lavender was found back in 1928 for children to take the same path. But in a way, when you think...
Croatians tell a story about a mountain village where two men died almost at the same time. They showed up at the pearly gates. One was the village bus driver, and the other was the village priest. Well, St. Peter looked at the bus driver and said, "You come right on in. You've brought a lot of people to Christ." The priest thought, "Well, I think I'm going to go in pretty easily here." But St. Peter said, "Hold on a second." The priest said, "Why?" And St. Peter said, "Well, all that time the people were in your church. They were sleeping. But all the time the people were on this bus driver's bus. They were praying."
This retired priest served us brandy and figs from his own farm and cheese from a neighbor. He has a really amazing library of old books, including a copy of Homer's Odyssey and this Book of Common Prayer, printed in 1640, which he let me touch.
Look like you're having a good time.
Croatia produces some excellent wines, and we took every opportunity to sample them at the many outdoor restaurants we encountered.
You were supposed to wear them.
Babe, cheers.
DNA analysis has shown that the Zinfandel grape originated in this area.
There you go.
So, of course, we had to try a local Zin. It was delicious. So was the coffee. We had an opportunity to visit a small winery on Šipan, run by a former ship captain. He used to be a blue captain, so he calls the winery Green Captain. We tasted 3 of his red wines, which we liked very much. Unfortunately, he doesn't make enough to export.
We ended our trip by sailing back from the islands to Zagreb, the capital in the center of the country. Zagreb was built by the Austro-Hungarian Empire for the most part, instead of the Venetians. And the Habsburgs really left their mark on the architecture.
The monument that was blown in the war, but it wasn't. So this was.